2 weeks away from trying to make this happen. I know we're optimistic that we'll get a good portion of our season in, but we're always prepared to deal with this thing out there that we actually are not in control of. And obviously we released a schedule and also some guys we added to our basketball family. So excited for again where we're at. Excited about our team, the way we practice, the way we go about our business, our talent level. It's fun. It's fun to be around the guys that we got right now, and excited for 2 weeks from today to take the court and play against somebody else. We're tired of beating each other up.
All right, we'll start with questions. Dave, go ahead.
Hey, Frank, thanks for doing this. Hope you're doing well. How is the team right now? Just the normal bumps or bruises or injuries or anybody out with COVID, anything like that?
No, it's, Dave, as we go through the year, I'm not going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Very transparent with COVID. That's something that's an individual, wants to share, that's on him. And if they do and their family okays me to speak about it, then I will. But I don't think we all have to be very intelligent to know when someone's out for 2 weeks, what exactly is going on behind the scenes. So, but no, injury wise, we're good, healthy. We're actually in pretty good shape, which was a big concern because of the way everything was moved around and lack of a spring and summer. But we're in a really good place right now, physically. So I'm excited.
Yeah, Frank, I guess just kind of about Devin and Jacoby, just how nice is it to finally get them into the boat, and what do you feel like they can do once they get to campus?
Yeah, Em, I'm good, right? Two guys that just live, breathe basketball. They're both leaders. Jacoby is just, and they're both like unbelievably competitive. They like, you sit down and visit with them, and they're very soft-spoken young men. They're very mild with how they express themselves in a conversation, but they go on the court, they want to rip your head off, and they're very demanding of their teammates, that they do the same. And Jacoby's your ultimate point guard. He's a leader. He uplifts everybody's talent around him, and then he's fearless of the moment. I mean, he's going to be a tremendous addition to our basketball team. Very vocal on the basketball court, just always looking to help, always looking to do more. He's a lot of fun. He's a pit bull. I mean, he is relentless as a competitor. And then Devin, the same way, unbelievable bloodline. His dad, Anthony Carter, played in the NBA forever. He's an assistant coach now. AC works him out. And I know what kind of workouts. Trying to get my lights back on in my office. I guess that's not working. But I guess AC really drills him really hard. And Devin responds to it. Devin's long. He's in that 6'4" range with really long arms, big hands, fits the profile of the guards that I like to coach. Has played point, has played off the ball. He's recovering from a shoulder injury that he suffered his senior year in high school. Main reason he went to prep school. But we're excited about him. Once again, another unbelievable competitor that's a great teammate. Both guys played high school ball for tremendous high school coaches. So they're prepared. They've been challenged. They've been prepared. And they're excited, man. They're excited to be Gamecocks. And they've both been chomping at the bit to be able to say that they're going to play for us. So really happy about that.
And next up, we have a guest joining us, Mr. Jerry Tipton from Kentucky. Jerry, you're up.
Yeah, hi, Frank. Hey, I wanted to ask you about how fluid rosters are these days with liberalizing the transfer rule, players testing the waters and so on. How much of a challenge is that for any coach?
Yeah, Jerry, it's, I don't think any coaches, I don't want to say any, I don't want to speak for too many people, but I feel pretty comfortable. The coaches that I've been in conversations with in our league and the board of directors, none of us were for the liberalization of the transfer rule. We a bunch of us were transfers ourselves, and it's we've changed the rules for the benefit of few, and unfortunately, that's kind of the direction of our country right now, where every adjustment we make is to appease a fewer number. But it is what it is. Unless something crazy happens in the next couple of months, that's the direction we're going in. And it's an animal that, as coaches, we got to be prepared to attack and figure it out. It's no different than coaching a game. Sometimes things happen that's not the way you plan them in practice, and you have to adjust on the fly. And we're being forced to adjust on the fly, and it's unfortunate because I'm good with transfers. I'm not against people transferring, but to just let people get up and go unannounced. They don't have to notify anybody. They just make a decision, leave campus at the end of April, the end of the semester, and hug everybody. And on Monday, they register at a new school. And, and it's, I don't know how that's teaching young people on how the real world works. I know I know the popular topic amongst media is that, well, coaches get up and leave whenever they want to. I wish it was that easy. I really wish. I'm contractually obligated and financially restricted to just getting up and leaving. And there's some major penalties I got to pay if I ever chose to do that, which I have. Part of life is understanding that there's going to be change. I'm okay with change. But when you change and you have a responsibility in place, there's certain things that kind of you got to be prepared to be okay with. And we've I don't know. I'm not for it. I think you can tell. I can talk about this for the next 2 days if you guys want me to. But it is what it is. It's getting pushed through, and we have to adjust and move forward.
And just as a follow, Frank, and I ask you, John Calipari's been basically having a new roster every year. Do you think that maybe that gives him greater insight or an advantage on how to juggle a new roster?
I don't know how John does it. And Jerry, and you've heard me say this before. The job he does to get so many first-year guys playing so well every single year, he doesn't get commended for that enough. The problem is that collegiate sports were about seeing Charles Barkley come to your gym for 3 years, or you name the player. And we have that in college football because they don't go anywhere. They don't leave early, and before they didn't transfer every year. Now, whether it's John's roster because of his freshman, or my roster a couple of years ago because of grad transfers, it's hard for our fans to understand who these guys are when they're here for 10 months. It makes it difficult, and it sounds like that influx is going to continue, that based on directions of recruiting and of transferring. And then, Jerry, here's the worst part to the whole thing. We're going to end up recruiting off each other's campuses. I don't think that's what college basketball is supposed to be. I'm going to have university A, B, and C having home visits with my players on my campus. And I'm going to wave at them as I'm going to go get on a plane to go have home visits with players on another college campus. And that's reality. That's what's coming. And I don't think there's any place for that in college sports, but that's the animal that's created. Us coaches, I know we get blamed for a lot of things, for adjusting and changing midstream, that's something we're all pretty good at. So we'll make it work.
Thanks, Frank.
Okay, John Del Bianco.
Hey, Frank, with that open date on November 25th for that exhibition, are you still expecting that to be a smaller in-state school like you had talked about a few weeks ago?
Yes, John. And the school's already been picked. It's just the reason we couldn't put it on there is because the contract has not been signed. And to give you clarity of what happened, why I had a Division I school that had agreed to play on that date. The last time we spoke, I said probably next week we'd release it. And then they came back the following week and they backed out. And then the exhibition game was going to be later in the year. And trying to find another school for that date got really hard. So then we were able to find a school later on in the year. So then we just took and decided to play the exhibition game like we do traditionally every year at the beginning of the season, which will be a good, I don't know what you want to call it, scrimmage, open scrimmage, whatever, just to get our guys. If you pay attention to our schedule, it's pretty damn hard. We turn around and we go, back-to-back high major games in Kansas City, come home for 3 or 4 days, then turn around and go to Houston. And they got the best team they've had there since the early 80s. And Dave remember, this is actually, Phil was actually in his 30s when Phi Slamma Jamma was going on. So, but then turn around and come back from there and play Wofford, who's pretty darn good, and then turn around and go to George Washington and then Clemson at home. I mean, it's our schedule gets. I don't know when I'm gonna be able to take a deep breath, but that's okay. That's all right. That's what it's all about. And I'd rather play these hard games than games that don't have any pop to them.
And as a follow-up to the schedule talk, how difficult, how much of a headache, how unique was this process in trying to whittle down what schools you can play and the matchups and all that, given what we're going through?
Yeah, I'm not in the same boat as all these coaches that have, leaked to their friends in the media that it's a what show or it's been out of control and it's difficult. Well, if the coaches that believed in all these promoters that were creating these phony bubbles, shame on them for thinking that these people are going to create a bubble that's going to be safe and across all boards with different leagues and different rules. That was always a pipe dream. The guys in Kansas City, the ones we were in, they immediately contacted us. They changed the date, and it was a date that kind of fit our schedule. Their testing is going to be pretty consistent. The 4 teams agreed that we all were going to be a part of the same thing. So it was a pretty smooth transition from that standpoint. It wasn't some promoter that created this bubble for us. If that Kansas City MTE, the one we're in, if the dates when they changed it had not worked for us, then I was going to just have our own little MTE here in Columbia and to get the season started. But once those dates worked, it was a matter of, for us, I don't know if I was lucky or for us, it was just a matter. I wanted to play home games and I wanted to play away games and I wanted to play neutral court games, which is what we do every single year in our non-conference. And I never felt. We got all the calls from all the so-called promoters that they were creating bubbles and bubbles and bubbles. And I never bought into that stuff. I didn't understand how they can, I didn't know how they were going to make it work. Because every league has different testing mandates. And if you're going to put all these teams under one bubble, who's paying for all that testing? I know what we're paying. It costs a lot of money. I never bought into that stuff. So I don't think it was as crazy as for us as some people have made it sound.
Michael?
Excuse me. Hey, Frank. Thanks for doing this today. Looking forward to actually covering some real life basketball games soon. I'm glad that's going to happen soon. I just wanted to ask you, this might be a little bit of a sensitive topic, but I just wanted to see if you could share anything with us on Patrick Ariel and that situation. You know, I know that's such a big decision, and I'm sure it wasn't easy, but I was wondering just if you could shed any light on that at all with us.
Yeah, it's a personal matter, for him. I would say you probably need to track him down to him or his family, for them to speak as to the reasons why the decisions were made. But it was not a basketball thing. It was not a Frank Patrick relationship problem. Just made a decision, for what he felt was best for him. And I fully understood. We had countless conversations. Family and I had countless conversations, and we all have to do what allows us to have peace and happiness in our hearts. And at this time, going to class and playing basketball was not something that he wanted to be a part of right now. So, but details for that, I would say, track him down, track his family down, and let him elaborate. It's his decision, not mine. Let him elaborate on what he chooses to make public.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you for giving us that a little bit.
Yep.
Phil?
Yeah. Hey, Frank. Can you talk about the intensity that must be taking place in your practices in your backcourt with the players you have, seventh joining the fray? How would you describe the competitive level that's going on? And could you name a starting three in your backcourt if you were playing a game tonight?
Phil, that's been real fun to watch, to be in the gym every day. They can't, they're not, without me forcing them, they don't allow each other to take a day off, to come in and have a bad day. Because when they do, they stick out like a sore thumb, because those guys are all so competitive and so experienced. Seventh is in a real good place. He still gets a little, I use the word with him, casual, but I don't have to say it too much, because he feels it himself, because the guy in front of him, Trey Hannibal, goes 150 miles per hour every single play. And then when for some reason him and Trey end up on the same team, then he's got Jermaine Cousinard in front of him. And it just never ends. And, it's TJ Moss, AJ Lawson, the guys that have all played the point and the two for us are ultra competitive, and they go at a high rate. So it's made for some unbelievably competitive practices. And one of the things I'm struggling with, I'm excited for 2 weeks from today. I've never had a worse feel about where we're at defensively with a team than I have right now. And I watch film and I think that we're battling defensively, but we're really, really struggling because we play so fast and so aggressive offensively that we're struggling defensively. And I'm trying, I don't want to overreact to the defense and jeopardize their confidence on offense. So I'm trying to manage that one right now, but it's a credit to them that they've played so hard, so consistent, and it's competitive, but they get along. Sometimes you have teams that compete because they don't get along. These guys are competing, but they get along, which makes it a whole lot of fun. And by the way, Phil, please tell me I wasn't lying, that you were in your 30s when Phi Slama Jama played.
Let's see, that would have been like 1980 something.
Yeah, come on.
84 was the last year. 84 was the last year.
Come on, Phil.
Yeah. I was probably touching the 30s at that point. Thank you.
I knew you and Fogler in the same category.
Yeah, right. He's much older. He's much older looking than I am. That's the difference. I still look youthful, just like you do. The knee must be working fine.
The knee's doing awesome. I've lost my hair. I mean, seriously, Phil, 8 years of South Carolina, I look like I've been beat up every day of my life. I just
welcome to Gamecock land.
Yeah.
All right, up next is Ben.
Hey, Frank, I kind of want to ask just overall in kind of your progress in practice, where do you sort of feel this team is, I guess, along the curve that you want to see in a preseason? Are they kind of at the, I guess, what point in practice are you in, do you think? And how close is this team to kind of developing the sort of preseason identity you would want it to be at as it heads into a season?
Yeah, I think offensively it's like I was just talking about. We're way ahead of schedule from what I'm used to our teams being at 2 weeks before our first game.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I don't really have a feel for where we're at defensively. I know we're trying real hard, and I know they want to do well, but I'm seeing things happen in practice, and then I go back and watch it on film, and I'm like, we weren't as bad as I thought we were. But just offensively, we're ahead of the game right now. If we had a game tomorrow offensively, I'd be concerned with our turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
We've been turning it over a little bit too much, but that goes hand in hand with playing aggressive and fast. You have to continue to be aggressive, and as you get into the games, then you realize, like, I got to scale back every once in a while and be a little bit more careful. But defensively is where I'm a little. I don't know if I'm worried. I don't know what it is. I don't have a handle on it right now. And for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to basically, my voice is going to be solely on the defensive end. And because it's time. And the other part is I've changed the way we usually flow into our preseason practices because of the whole COVID situation and the fact that it was just different. So I couldn't make what I usually do. I couldn't force that into a different environment, different scenario. So I've tried to manage certain things a little differently. So we'll see. But we rebound. Our physicality at the rim is pretty darn good. I can tell you, Keyshawn, Justin Minaya are playing at a high clip. Jalen McCreary's taken a step forward as a player, as Wildens Levesque has. Alonzo Frink, when we do stuff where it's kind of controlled, he's playing with a passion that we need. His challenge continues to be running the court. He's got to do a better job running the court. But I like our team. I think the ferocity that we play with, the sense of urgency that we play with, it's fun to be around. I know it shows in practice every single day, and it doesn't. The one thing that's been fun with this team, it doesn't have to come from me anymore. It's starting to come from them, and which allows me to maybe save a couple months at the end of my life, but at the same time, it allows me and my staff to be more concerned with teaching and coaching rather than motivating and challenging. And so let's see where it goes. I'm excited for this team.
Mitch?
Coach, obviously a lot of teams and a lot of stylistic play is smaller now in terms of the way teams play, but obviously in the SEC, big men are still essential. I'm curious, is there any situations that we would see someone like Keyshawn Bryant at the 5 this year? And also, you talked about Jalen McCreary and his growth. How is his game? We saw him shoot the outside shot a little bit last year. How do you feel like he's coming along in all aspects of his game as well?
Yeah, I'll answer your second one first. Keyshawn's taken a huge step forward as a basketball player. He used to be an athlete that played basketball. Last year, he started to become a basketball player, and then he hurt his knee, and then he just kind of I don't want to say stagnated as growth, but kind of when you don't practice for 5 weeks, it's hard, and you're trying to grow as a player. It didn't allow him to succeed as rapidly as I thought he was as a basketball player. And then the last 5-6 games of the year, where we lost Justin Minaya, I think you saw his numbers take a huge jump as far as what his statistics were doing, and the fact that we were able to sustain and continue to win some games. Now to your other question with a small ball, I mean, never, I don't ever say never in anything, because the one thing I know is that life's about change, and you better be prepared to adapt every single day to whatever hand you're dealt. The whole small ball deal, it's, this is what I'll say about the whole small ball. Alex English played in the NBA in the 70s and 80s. He was a small ball power forward. So small ball has existed for a long time. People are making too much of a thing about it now. Small ball is something that's been a part of basketball forever and ever. The thing that's changed is that, now everybody has, like centers, everybody shoots threes. So the spacing is different. The things that's changed that instead of scoring off, I'm going to use basketball terminology. If you need me to explain it, I will. Instead of getting shots off of flex and floppy and staggers and pin downs, now people get shots off a ball screen and off the dribble. Shooting the ball off the dribble used to be a no-no 20 years ago. Now it's coach, it's taught, shoot the ball off the dribble. But I still, the best team in every league, in NBA, professional, college, the teams that are prepared to win championships are still the ones that get to the foul line, rebound, and make the most layups. It's whoever wins in the paint wins the game. That's the most consistent stat that continues to be out there. And but you got to make threes. That's part of the. It's not because analytics says so. It's just, it's part of the floor spacing. And if you can shoot the basketball, there's always a place for you to help the team get better. And that's something that we have to continue to do. This team that I've got this year has the flexibility where we can play physical, big, old-fashioned 3-out, 2-in, beat you up at the rim, or we can also play, 4-out, 1-in, and not lose our physicality. That's the place that this team's at right now.
Dave?
Frank, first off, I was 5 when NC State beat Houston in '83, so I'm not that old, but I do remember watching it. But 2 questions about the non-conference schedule. One, teams you already had an agreement with before COVID hit, will those still be honored, those contracts at a later date? And 2, how important was it for you and Brad to get the Clemson game on the schedule?
Yeah, I mean, the Clemson game was never in doubt. I mean, the date worked. It's not like he and I never even spoke about trying to move it around. I'm sure if the logistics, because the challenging part that we all had to wait on was conference scheduling. Are we going to play right after Christmas? Or are we going to play right before Christmas? Then it would have impacted our game. I'm not sure when the ACC's playing, but they're not playing that week. So our game was safe. And then we're playing after Christmas. So I had to change a couple things after Christmas, but we didn't have to touch that pre-Christmas week. And what was your other question, Dave?
Like games that you might have had agreed
to.
Yes. COVID hit, will those still be on?
Absolutely. There's 2 games that we just pushed off a year. We agreed to do it the following year, and then there's 1 game that was a contractual agreement for a one-time deal that we said, let's get through this initial hit, and then let's revisit about when to make that happen again. But yeah, The idea is to keep those teams on our schedule as fast as we can in the future here.
Colin?
Frank, I'm going to go on the record. I was 11 years away from being born before Phi Slamma Jamma came out there. But two questions, I guess, with Patrick's departure, how do you plan on handling that open scholarship? Do you just save it for the 21 class? And kind of how is that competition going for the starting center spot? Is there a favorite 2 weeks out?
Yeah, to Jerry Tipton's question earlier, Colin, we have no idea. I got no idea because of January. That when this rule changes in January, we might have someone walk in and say, hey, Frank, I love it here, but I got a call from somebody and I got a chance to go play at this other school and I can play a lot more, and they're going to leave. And it has nothing to do with whether they're having a good experience or not. It's just the fact that they feel that instead of playing 10 minutes a game, they can play 30 minutes a game, and they're going to leave because they don't have to sit out. So how am I going to manage Patrick's scholarship moving forward? I got no idea right now. We'll look at some mid-year transfers to see if something's available. I might even consider putting one of our walk-ons on scholarship for the rest of the year, or I should say for the second semester, because I can't use it in the first semester. And then determine what to do in the spring for the following year. So the one thing I can tell you is that the old traditional, there's 8 on scholarship, 5 guys signed, they got 13. That's gone. That is gone. We're going to managing the roster right now and the scholarship numbers, trying to figure out how to do that and stay at 13 every single year that's going to be complicated. That's going to be time consuming and it's going to be interesting. But the starting center, I really don't know right now. I haven't made a decision yet, which I'm going to have to start thinking along those lines as to whether I want to start the game with a power lineup or I want to start the game with a smaller physical lineup. I'm not sure where I'm at with that yet. I know we're going to play both ways, but I don't know what's best for this team from a how do we start and then how do we sub into the game, because that's a big part of it is guys coming in off the bench. Not all of them are good coming off the bench. So you have to make sure that the guys coming in off the bench are the kind of players that excel in that role. And it's very important.
A couple more, Michael and then Ben.
You mentioned your guys being impressed with your guys' sense of urgency and focus during practice so far. I'm just curious about just theories on why that's been the case so far. What's been fueling that? I mean, is part of it just being cooped up with COVID and being able to get back out on the court and having that normalcy, or where have you kind of seen that growth in your guys, and where is that fire really coming from right now?
Yeah, COVID has something to do with it, because we were all locked up, and you get to realize that you miss doing certain things. But for us, it's basically experience. We return a whole team, and it's some young guys that have worked really hard. And, we were a real good basketball team last year. We won 18 games, and they're excited about going out there and being better than they were last year. And that, whether we were an NCAA tournament team last year or not, we'll never know. That's not a question that's ever going to have an answer. Anyone that tries to guess one way or the other is not somebody who was fully committed to it. That we lived it. We knew we were a postseason team, but we also know that we left some games on the table, whether it was, games that we didn't play as well as we needed to play, or games that we played hard, but we didn't defend well or foul too much or whatever it may be. That we had to get better at those things. So as an experienced team, I think that's the greatest thing that we've got, is that our roster has pretty much been in place for 2 years. And You know, this is year 3 that the core of our guys have been together. And I think they're really, really excited about the opportunity.
Ben?
Frank, you mentioned kind of the power lineups and some of the 3 out, 2 in stuff. And I know when you guys do that, you like to have one of the bigs in the high post that can kind of feed down low. And I wanted to ask, is there anyone particularly who's shown a really high level of aptitude sort of filling that role? Maybe a Jalen McCreary or maybe someone else?
Yeah, one of the adjustments that I had to make last year was, you know, Kotsar was a better high post player than he was a low post player. And when we went to our 3 out, 2 in, and we had Chris on the down, you know, Silva on down low, you know, now you have Mike and Chris in that tandem in there, and it fit. And one of the adjustments that I had to figure out pretty soon last year was none of those young guys were ready to be that full-time down low guy. So then I tried to play Mike in there and have them as the high post guy, but they didn't have they weren't prepared mentally to understand how to make those passes and how to play from those areas. But the biggest component was Kotsar was not a good low post player. It doesn't mean he didn't work hard at it. Didn't mean he wasn't a hard player, but he wasn't comfortable playing with his back to the basket. So that's why I went to more of that 4 out, 1 in, was to kind of protect him and put him in places where he can. If you remember, we ended up doing stuff where he'd end up kind of flashing to the elbows and to those little 15-foot areas where he was really good from. And that's an adjustment that we had to make. Like I made that adjustment last year after we scrimmaged Illinois, you know, because against ourselves in practice, but now you go scrimmage Illinois and you're like, oh, okay, that's going to be a problem. We got to adjust here. And the great thing about him and our team last year is that they were able to make that adjustment as we started changing it around. You know, we got guys that I think can do both this year. Okay. They can play from the trail and can play from the fill. Like Wildens is a lot better in there. You know, Alonzo's a load in there. You know, problem Alonzo is he's not 6'11". So, you know, we've got to figure out a way to help him create the angle rather than just depend on his big size that just get in there and play over the top of people. So, but it's, you know, and one guy I haven't spoken about much is Javon Benson. I mean, he just doesn't know what he's doing right now, but he's got a talent that every once in a while you're like, how the heck he do that? You know, because he's so big and strong, and he's one of those guys that he just has basketball instincts. Like he made a backdoor pass yesterday. I think it was AJ Lawson. It wasn't Justin, AJ. That I was like, who made the pass? And it was him. I'm like, how did he make that pass? Kotsar would never have made that pass. But this kid don't know what he's doing, but he made the pass, and it's a basketball instinct stand. So I think those guys can play in both places.
Does anyone have a last question for Frank?
Hey, Whittle.
Go ahead, John.
What's happening? Sorry, I'm just getting on. And if you've answered this, I'll go back and listen to the tape. But was wondering what you saw out of 7th going through the medical issue that he went through. What was his attitude like throughout all of that? And how did you see him back once he got out onto the court?
I'll answer the question if you can tell me Phil's age when Phi Slamma Jamma last existed.
I think Phil was 74 at the time.
Hey, God bless. I'll answer 2 questions for that one. You know, John, everybody was really scared for 7th, and when it first took place, I know Mark, our trainer, when it's like you're in an airplane and the plane's bouncing, and the stewardesses and the pilots, if you can see them, they're having a great time. They're just having conversations, and all of us, we're sitting there tightening our seatbelts. There's really nothing going on. But when they sit down and you see the look on their face changes, then that's when we got issues. Mark, our trainer, reacted a little differently, then he's just going to the hospital for a checkup. And that's when I got worried. And then the most difficult part is that with the whole COVID, nobody can go to the hospital to see him. So, you know, it was scary. It was something that we all worried for him. And then once he got out, it was a matter of making sure that he had to get tested. These levels about this, I can't say the word. It's a function that his kidneys, something, an enzyme or something his kidneys create. The levels there had to get to a certain place, and then start introducing him to working out again and making sure that those levels stayed at a safe place. So going through that whole process at the beginning was you know, it made me worry for him. And I know he was worried about it, but he's full go now. And his levels, he's reacted tremendously. He's regained all his strength back in the weight room. I mean, he's pretty darn strong. You know, he's playing aggressive. He's playing fast. He's in a great mindset right now. So I'm really happy for him. He's a wonderful young man. I mean, just an unbelievably great kid. And knock on wood, you know, I hope it's not something he has to deal with again.